Welcome to episode 2 of Managing Nature Together. In this episode, we interviewed Mark Champion from Lancashire Wildlife Trust about the valuable plethora of ecosystems which exist in Highfield and how they can be successfully managed by volunteers. Hello and welcome back to Managing Nature Together. I'm Frank Baker and we're with the Lancashire Wildlife Trust today and I'm with Mark Champion. So Mark, what sorts of habitats are there in Highfield Country Park?
Well, there's a range of different habitats. There's the meadows with the grasses and the wildflowers, which are really interesting. There's the woodlands, which are full of sort of woodland species. They've got the birds. We've got some interesting areas there. Some interesting ferns and things growing in those. And then we've got the wetlands with mainly sort of surrounding by ponds and a stream. And there's a couple of quite nice big ponds and some smaller ponds made by the volunteers. So a range of nice pond areas.
And why would you say that it's so important to manage these different types of areas in different ways?
Well, obviously you need to manage the grassland regularly with a cut every year. Otherwise it'll start to get very coarse vegetation and all the nice flowering species that are good for bees and pollinators and so on, and all that diversity of plant species will get overgrown by the sort of brambles and the coarser vegetation. Wetlands, they need to be maintained as wet, and ponds keeping the open space so that they're suitable for the newts, the frogs and the other amphibians. And obviously woodlands, there's a whole range of management, but they're on a much longer time scale because they need to regrow and develop and be taken in different directions. So they're much more on sort of a 10-15 year sort of process. So you've got much different sort of ways of managing different habitats so that they fit the timescales at which they grow.
Right, okay. And I've heard about wildlife corridors as well, Mark, and why are they so important?
Well, if you've got just an island of habitat, the species need to be able to get to that island.
Yeah.
So what you need to be able to do is be able to get the species and the habitats to move through the landscape so they can come through people's gardens or along road verges, through parks or nature reserves, and they are able to get into the nature reserve here at Highfield and not be that island, so that there's that whole landscape is working as one unit.
And you talk about wildlife corridors encouraging wildlife to come into Highfield Country Park. What would you say would be the top wildlife you'd want to get into Highfield Park here?
Well, we've seen some interesting species while we've been here. We've seen broadleafed helleborine, June helleborine, ring butterfly, and there's a whole heap of other species. A lot of the bees, some solitary bees that need to nest in sandbanks, bumblebees. They've all got to be able to move. So there's a whole really nice array of butterflies and bees and birds that all want to be able to get here because it's 35 hectares of really nice habitat.
And in terms of management plan, which the park has got from the Heritage Lottery, why would you say that that is as important in establishing wildlife in the park?
Because if you manage the site regularly in the same way and keep a consistency of management across the whole site, then it allows the wildlife to adapt and find its way here and then use the habitat really, really well. So nice consistent management areas allow that sort of evolution of the landscape and of the nature reserve to really develop well. If you chop and change your management over time, then that doesn't give it a chance to adapt and the species can't adapt to that sort of process. So it's really important that a management plan is used to guide that process into the future.
Yeah, that makes sense. It means everything's working together as one.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
Alas, with the agreeable tones of Levenshulme's ice cream vans ringing on from a distance, and the importance of wildlife corridors to Highfield settled, Hilary, also from the Lancashire Wildlife Trust, joined me to talk about the value of volunteers.
Well, volunteers are absolutely vital in a site like this that's surrounded by houses. Lots and lots of people use this site, and we know lots and lots of people really love Highfield. And some of those people are willing to give their time for nothing, which is just amazing, isn't it? Somebody told me earlier that there've been 3,000 hours of time donated to this site. So all sorts of different people are coming and doing work on the site. And the brilliant thing is that they're just improving it for nature. It's absolutely fantastic. we know, don't we? The council manages and owns this site, but we know the council hasn't got the resources to do those detailed habitat intervention that Mark's probably been telling you about already. They can keep the paths mown, but they certainly can't be creating new areas of wildflower meadow. So that's where all the volunteers come in. So yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. They're vital, and hopefully we can all work together on the plan and it'll be brilliant.
That sounds amazing. Thank you, Hilary.
Hilary and Mark made clear the essential role which volunteers can play in creating a suitable environment that allows wildlife to thrive. You can read more about the Lancashire Wildlife Trust on their website, lancashire.org.uk, which includes a blog from Hilary about her wildlife-friendly allotment plot, and on social media. A massive thank you to Mark and Hilary from LWT, and don't forget to watch the other episodes from our Managing Nature Together series.